Hi, I'm Robin Fertel, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm here to share some resources to help you learn more what it means to have a healthy relationship. Being in a healthy relationship means you have a good and stable adult relationship that actually works. So what does a healthy relationship look like? Well, I think before we go into that, what a healthy relationship looks like, we need to talk about what an unhealthy or a bad relationship looks like. First of all, in an unhealthy relationship, you already think you know that person way too fast. For example, I've had clients that have gone on 2, 3, or maybe even 4 dates, and they're telling me characteristics about the person they're dating just based on what he or she is saying. They're assuming without really knowing that person, not by what they're saying, but also how their actions back up what they're saying. They don't really know them. You can't know somebody and be in a mature relationship until after you've gone out with him or her more than just a few times. This also happens when you're talking about relationships that are not romantic. For example, I've had clients that barely know anything about the job. They went in for a job interview and they were so desperate to get the job that they were trying to impress the person. However, they weren't really gathering enough information about the company to make an informed choice regarding whether or not they would be a good fit for this company. This is another example of going way too fast in relationships. A second characteristic of an unhealthy relationship is when you are constantly trying to get approval from the other person without realizing that you already have inherent worth and that you are equal to the other person. When this happens, you could say the person has love addiction, a profound need to receive love, acceptance, and approval from other people. A good example of this would be whether you're in a marriage or a long-term partnership or even dating someone. If you feel like the other person has certain characteristics, like strengths that are better than your weaknesses, so you start feeling like you are less than them. See, the one person's here and the other person is down here. When that happens, you're going to constantly be seeking approval from the other person, which in the end puts a lot of pressure actually on the other person to give you that approval. Whether it's a date or your husband or wife or a long-term partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, even if it's with your children or someone at work, if you're feeling less than them, you're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself to prove who you are to them. Not only that, but you're also putting pressure on the other person to give you the approval that you need. I had a client who is a mother of a teenager. She came from a pretty neglectful childhood, so she oftentimes felt inadequate as a mother. She was constantly trying to get approval from her teenage daughter, placing herself in a less than position. What did it look like for the mom to be in a less than position? Well, she had problems setting boundaries with her teenager, who was so much in control because she needed approval from her child. This is another example of constantly trying to get approval from the other person. I've worked with professional ex-athletes and talked with them about serial dating and what they have done. On the first, second, or third date, the woman they would date would feel less than them, so she would be sexual with them way too fast because she wanted their approval. And she assumed that the man would fall in love with her for that. So they're coming from a less than position by trying to gain approval by not using appropriate sexual boundaries. Another example of a bad relationship would be in a marriage. I've had lots of clients who are in marriages and they feel less than their husbands or less than their wives around money. So say the one person makes less money than the other, the person that makes less might feel less than, for example. And then they're constantly trying to prove themselves from this one down position trying to get self-worth by proving to themselves and trying to overcompensate in other areas, but never really speaking up about what they need or want in the relationship. So really, a bad or unhealthy relationship happens when one person is constantly trying to get approval from the other. So you're coming into the relationship halfway with low self-worth, whether it's in work, parenting, friendship, or even the relationship between students and teachers. Whenever there's a power dynamic where one person feels less than, that is not a healthy, equal adult relationship. A final example of what an unhealthy adult relationship looks like is when people are fighting and arguing all the time, but are not really getting anything resolved. One person is not listening, the other person is talking, and then they're both just at each other all the time. I see this a lot when people first come to me in couples therapy. Sometimes what happens is one of the two or both are trying to be so pleasant and so nice that they don't discuss or talk about any issues at all. So it could be one extreme or the other. The resentment starts building and they can't process their issues effectively, like mature adults. Now, we have talked about what a bad relationship or an unhealthy relationship looks like. Let's talk about what a healthy relationship looks like. Over the years, so many people have asked me this. Some people don't even have a model of what a healthy relationship looks like because they haven't even seen it with their own parents or friends or even anybody in their community. That is so sad. A healthy relationship is based on maturity. When you're in a healthy relationship, both people are able to take care of themselves in the relationship. So they're both coming from an equal level of self-worth. They are able to really listen to one another and to talk. They're able to not go into the assumption or even get into the perception of what the other person is feeling or thinking. They're able to be interdependent, which means, for example, if someone needs a hug in that relationship, if somebody needs some time alone, they're able to ask for that. But they're also able to be somewhat dependent. Do you see the balance? And ask for help when they need it. So, a healthy relationship is the in-between of being too dependent and being anti-dependent. I love that. So moderate. Another characteristic of a healthy adult relationship is that both people are able to be themselves. Love that. They are able to coexist together and be some kind of partnership or team. And they're able to fulfill their life's purpose within that partnership. The whole communication doesn't only become about their relationship. It is actually used as a platform. The relationship is used as a platform to be of service for other people. So the relationship remains calm, but at the same time, there's some intensity between the two people. Again, it's the in-between of being completely dead on one hand and then being too chaotic in the other. So we want to have that peace, the peace of moderation between two functional, healthy adults. In healthy adult relationship, people are not having that relationship based on their inner child. Okay, what does that mean? That means there's no immaturity in the relationship, or if there is, they're able to get out of the states. The wounded child is the little person in you who feels unloved. The teenager is a little older, and that age regression isn't there. Where you find two emotionally immature people who are not able to take responsibility for their part and they assign blame to the other person. Mature adults in healthy relationships, when they make mistakes, because we all do, they're able to apologize and take full responsibility for their behavior. The biggest thing I see in healthy adult relationships is when two people are able to take full responsibility for their part. This often happens when the people in the relationship share similar values, because You can have two emotionally mature people, but if you have significantly different value systems, that relationship will most likely not work. An example of this is if one person wants a child and the other one doesn't. Or one person is a big spender but the other one is a big saver. Or one person values family and the other one doesn't. Maybe you have one person who wants to live in the mountains and the other person wants to live by the beach. So you have two different value systems, and when that happens, even if you have two emotionally healthy, mature people, that relationship is doomed if you have different core values. So it is incredibly important that you take the time to get to know someone to see if they have similar values, rather than just looking at the relationship superficially and thinking, okay, they're sexy, they're good looking and fun, so I think it's gonna work, right? This applies to any relationship, whether it's business, a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship. When two people have similar values, if they're able to compromise, that's great. You'll most likely be able to have a healthy relationship. But if there's no room for compromise, it doesn't make sense to stay in the relationship or to proceed with it. I've seen people, one person wants 4 kids and the other person doesn't want any, and they've been together for 4 years and they're coming for therapy. Well, that is not a healthy working adult relationship. What really is happening is they're on completely different pages. So you really want to look at that in the beginning of a relationship so you don't waste your time. Make sure that you get to know the other person and just watch and see if your values align. All right, let's sum this up. Healthy adult relationships are based on two people who are emotionally mature and have a strong sense of their own self-worth, who take full responsibility for their part without assigning blame. Healthy relationships involve two people who are able to talk to one another maturely and clearly state who they are. They are also able to listen to what the other person is saying, even if their perception is different. They're able to coexist. When two perceptions are able to coexist, that relationship is a healthy relationship.